Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the RightStart Math online conference. And today, Rachel is going to be presenting Dyslexia, Dyscalculia, and RightStart Math. Rachel has a Master of Education's degree in special education. She's taught children with learning disabilities and coached families and teachers of students with special needs. She developed a passion for this as she realized that one of her own children has significant learning struggles. As a result, she's done considerable research, learning how to teach the struggling learner and her family, and loves to pass on her knowledge and experience to other parents looking for help. Rachel's used RightStart Math from kindergarten on. In fact, she's graduated several of her children from the RightStart Math program and has been thrilled with her kids' understanding of math concepts. With that, I give you Rachel, and I do also ask that you hold any questions until the end of the presentation, please.
Thank you, Marin. Welcome, everybody, to Dyslexia, Dyscalculia, and RightStart Math. As Marin said, my name is Rachel Anderson. Thank you so much for joining me today. I frequently work with families who have kids with learning challenges and special needs. Two of the most common disabilities that are discussed are dyslexia and dyscalculia. How prevalent are they? A study from Yale Center for Dyslexia and Creativity has found that dyslexia affects 20% of the population and represents 80 to 90% of all those with learning disabilities. I get the question of what is actually dyscalculia? It is a condition that makes it hard to do math and tasks that involve math. It is not as well known or as understood as dyslexia, but some experts believe it is just as common. Some call dyslexia or dyscalculia dyslexia for math. Now, I'm going to give you some characteristics, some common characteristics of kids who have dyslexia and or dyscalculia. Now, some of the characteristics I'm listing will affect only one of those learning disabilities, but most of the characteristics I list will affect both. Children with dyslexia have a difficulty understanding and hearing this spoken word. They have a problem distinguishing specific sounds. For example, one of the most commonly confused sounds is the short E sound, the eh sound, and the short I sound, which is the I sound. My son, Logan, cannot tell the difference between those two sounds. So for him, the words met and mit sound just the same. They struggle with other sounds as well. And I know I'm hearing you ask, or thinking anyway, how does that affect math? Well, students who struggle with hearing the difference between the words of 14 and 40, right? There is where we're going to have an issue with children with dyslexia, hearing the differences in the sounds. Your child might also have difficulty with sequencing words or location words. And those will be words of like before and after, yesterday and tomorrow, above, below, left and right. And they can also have difficulty with comparison words, such as greater than and less than. They also can have working memory deficiency. You may notice this characteristic if your child struggles to follow a list of instructions or cannot memorize or remember their math facts. I remember one day I told Logan, my son, to go upstairs to get his shoes, to get his coat, so that we can leave to go to the store. Logan went upstairs. When he didn't come down, I checked on him and he was sitting on the floor playing with his Legos. And when I asked him why he didn't get his shoes and his coat on so that we can go, he goes, "Oh, I forgot." Now, this was 30 seconds, maybe less, after I gave him these instructions. So very short-term memory sometimes. You might also notice this struggle if you have a child with dyslexia or dyscalculia in your home. When you teach a concept one day, it goes really good and you're like, yeah, this is a great day. And then the next day you come in and you review that concept and it's as if your child has never heard it before. Anybody out there? I see some heads shaking out there. I know we all have had that. If you have a child with dyslexia, you know exactly what that's like. That being said, they also struggle to learn math facts and how to solve basic math problems, especially word problems. Why? Well, numbers of math facts are abstract. These kiddos do not understand why numbers in an equation change simply because of the operation symbol. And you know what I mean? 3 plus 2 is 5, but 3 minus 2 is now 1. And 3 times 2 is now 6. They don't understand what's going on when these equations are left in abstract form. Also, word problems can be very difficult because they struggle with reading. First, they have to read through the whole program or through the whole problem. Then they have to pull out the information, the significant information that's needed to solve the problem, and then they have to solve it. Now, this is a huge drain on their mental energy. My daughter, who has dyscalculia, struggled to understand that the symbol, like 7, that's the symbol for it, or the name 7, or the quantity of 7 were all different ways to express the same thing. We literally, I'm not joking, we spent 2 months working on just numbers 7 through 10, combining the identity of the name, the symbol, and the quantity. Children with dyslexia and dyscalculia also struggle with operation symbols. They also struggle to learn money and time concepts, and they struggle with writing. They do not know or do not remember which directions letters and numbers should be written in. Take a look at this dyslexia logo. These are not 4 circles. What this is a Q, a P, a D, and a B. Do you see that? Why is that their logo? Because these kiddos struggle with remembering which direction the letters go. They also can flip letters and numbers around. For example, if a child is trying to write the number 27, they may actually write 72. Now, this is one reason why they really do not like worksheets. Not only are they trying to remember how to solve the problem, but they also need to remember which direction the number should be written in and in what order. RightStart math approach to teaching math makes all the difference in the world for kids with dyslexia and dyscalculia. Why is that? Because it teaches in the way that these kiddos can learn. They can learn. So in today's workshop, I'm going to focus on 3 different things: the Cotter Abacus, the strong and appropriate focus on place value, and math card games, and how those 3 things can positively affect your child's ability to learn. Let's start with understanding the power of the Cotter Abacus. Now, if you're a current RightStart math user, you know what this is. However, if not, this is what the Cotter Abacus looks like. Notice the color changes. Dr. Cotter designed this abacus to reflect the child's hands. 5 blue beads represent 5 fingers in one hand, and the 5 yellow beads represent 5 fingers on the other hand. It is important to start instruction with what your child already knows. So if you ask your child to show you 3 on their fingers, they're going to be able to do that immediately, right? Without hesitation. The Cotter Abacus takes that knowledge and that understanding and puts it into a new model that your child can build from. Studies show that most people with dyslexia have the ability to visualize things in 3 dimensions. This is one of their strengths, so let's use it. The Cotter Abacus. World Memory Champion of 2009, Ben Pridmore said, "Think in pictures, because the brain remembers images better than it does anything else." Now, this is true with all students. However, it is especially true for those with dyslexia and dyscalculia. So when quantities are presented as quantities and not just symbols, these kiddos can begin to understand math facts. Now, children with learning disabilities struggle to understand math facts because they are so symbolic. What is this symbol of? It says 3, right? We read it as 3, but what is it really? And why does this symbol plus this symbol equal this symbol? These are abstract ideas. Now, just like learning the alphabet to say the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, doesn't teach a child to read, those letters are symbolic, right, of the sounds they make. So kids need to understand that these numeric symbols represent quantities. Now, as I mentioned before, start with what the child knows so they can see and understand what these symbols represent. So if you were to look at that, how many fingers is this person holding up? 3. Start with the quantity. Then have your child put the quantity on the Cotter Abacus. Make sure your child is not counting when they move the beads. I think that's one of the common problems parents have. They don't realize. Now, the first time a child uses the abacus, they're going to want to move 1 bead, 2 beads, 3 beads. If they do that, say, great job. Now I want you to move all 3 beads at once. So have them go to the next line down and move just 3 beads in one group. Feel free to use as many wires on that abacus as possible until moving 3 beads at once becomes automatic. Now, when your child grasps that this quantity is 3, then introduce the symbol of 3. Let's try a few more. How many fingers do you see here? 5. We all love that one. Have your child show you 5 fingers first, and then input 5 beads on the Cotter Abacus. Now make sure your child sees the finger and color significance. Here, the child shows all 5 fingers in one hand, right? And they have used all 5 blue beads in one row. Now, again, you don't want your child to count the beads 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but to recognize them, also known as subitizing. Just as with the 3, if they are counting the beads, then have them input 5 beads on other wires as a group until it becomes automatic. Then and only then do you show the symbol for 5. Now, this is just the symbol for the quantity of 5. Let's do one more. Ask your child to show 7 on their fingers and then 7 on the abacus. Again, notice that they need all 5 fingers of one hand, all the blue beads, and 2 fingers of the other hand and 2 of the yellow beads. You are applying what your child already knows into a new model. Then show your child the symbol for 7. So now let's apply this model to arithmetic. When you give your child a problem like 3 plus 4, have them move it from the abstract to the concrete and tangible by having them move the first 3 beads. For that 3 plus 4, we're going to have them move the 3 beads, and then we're going to have them move 4 more beads, right? We're going to squish those beads together, and then we are going to ask, how many beads do you see? The child's going to see 7 because they've been working with 7. Then we say, okay, so how do we write 7? And then they will write it. Now notice we started with the symbols. Then we had the child experience the equation with actual tangible beads giving substance to that symbolic. We are also giving them a visual understanding of what these symbols represent. Let them see the solution using the beads. Then we are going to have them translate the answer back into the symbolic form, the written form of 7. Now, over time, students are going to be able to mentally visualize the abacus instead of using the physical abacus to solve math facts. Now, just as with many children with dyslexia, my son has working memory deficiency. His was more severe than most, and he could not memorize when he was little. Interestingly, though, get this, he was quicker and more accurate in solving his math facts than many of his peers who are memorizing them, but not because he had them memorized. Instead, when given a problem like 3 plus 4, he visualized the abacus in his mind, saw the beads, and then gave me the answer. Now, nobody but he and I knew that he did not rote memorize his math facts. Now, why was he faster and more accurate? Well, because his peers were counting on their fingers, which took longer than visualizing a picture, and they were not always accurate in their memorization. Now, if you have a child who has dyslexia or dyscalculia, do not make them memorize their math facts. It's not going to work. In fact, it's going to cause lots and lots of frustration and discouragement in your child, and they're not going to remember them. Use your energy, use your child's mental energy wisely. Give them the tools, give them the strategies that is going to work with their strengths. Now, I didn't say not with your strengths, their strengths. You may be a good memorizer. I was a really good memorizer. So I kept thinking, well, if my son would just try harder, he would just memorize it. But that's not the case. Your child with dyslexia or dyscalculia does not have that strong memorization skill. Help them learn their math facts in such a way that encourages them to use the skills that they are naturally good at. One common question I am asked is, should I give my child the abacus to solve every problem? Well, I'm going to say until your child is comfortable using the abacus, then absolutely they should. Let your child use the abacus all the time. In fact, require your child to use the abacus all the time. Some of the older students are like, I don't want to use that. You need to require your child to use the abacus until it's automatic for them. What you want to do is get your child so comfortable, so fluent with the abacus that they can start visualizing it in their minds. Now, if you notice your child if your child has been using the abacus for a while, and you're starting to feel that they're starting to get too reliant upon it, then you can begin to wean your child off the abacus by doing these few steps. First of all, let them use the abacus all the time. That is the first step. Then let them look at the abacus, but not touch it. I used to put the abacus on the far wall so they can see it, but it was out of reach. Then let them look at their imaginary abacus and physically move the imaginary beads. So if I'm doing 3 + 4 = 7, let them visualize it. And then 4, they will not need the abacus. And I can tell you, they are not going to like step 3. So step 3 will go really, really quick. And then the next thing you know, they're not going to need the abacus any longer. All right, what about place value? Why is it an important concept for the child with dyslexia and dyscalculia to learn? Because the full understanding of higher valued numbers and operation only occurs when the child understands place value, when numbers move from one place value to another. Now, for a short period of time, if you're a RightStart Math user, you know this. RightStart Math has kids learn the math way of saying numbers to help them fully understand place value. For example, kids learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That does not change, right? Now, the pattern of numbers is lost, though, when we hit these middle numbers. What is an 11? Anyway, that doesn't tell me anything. It's just a new word. So instead of 11, RightStart Math encourages the child to say 10, 1, which is the place value name for that number. 10, 2 is 12, 10, 3, 10, 4, 10, 5, 10, 6, 10, 7, 10, 8, 10, 9, 2, 10, 2, 10, 1, 2, 10, 2, all the way through 9, 10, 9. Now, I can already hear some arguments with you, but hang in there really quick. I want you to hear all of this. Remember how I said kids with dyslexia and dyscalculia struggle to hear the different sounds. Unlike 40 and 14, there is no way to confuse 410 and 110, 4. This understanding is extremely important when they begin to work with multi-digit numbers. One of the most common arguments I hear from parents all the time is that, well, my kid already knows the names of their numbers, and this is just going to confuse the child. Well, I have some thoughts about that. First of all, our kids are so much more flexible than we give them credit for. They could do so much more than we think that they can. Second, most of the time, it's because we are uncomfortable with the strategy and we are not comfortable requiring them to shift. And probably the most, for me personally, the biggest concern I had is that especially family members who do not approve of homeschooling, others will hear my kids say the numbers the math way, and my friends or family is going to express concern in the manner in which my child is being taught math. Let me just start by saying this strategy is huge. It is going to help your child understand math. Using this strategy for just a few months is not that hard when you realize that the outcome is so much worth it. Now, next, if your child is in the habit of saying their numbers traditionally, especially for that older child, then require it in math class. Have them say it both ways even. For example, if your child just naturally answers the question as 23, tell your child, great answer, now say it the math way. And then have them require them to say 2, 10, 3. Don't take this strategy away from your child's ability to learn math simply because you're a little uncomfortable with it or we're worried about what other people will think. It is valuable for your child's understanding. Now, place value cards. I love place value cards. They help students see how a number is built. Take a look at this. As you teach place value, you are including visual, auditory, and kinesthetic activities when you use place value cards. Now here we have the place value cards showing ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands, right? Now, when you teach this to your kids, RightStart Math has you help your child hear the number of syllables in each place value. Now, don't gloss over this strategy. In fact, I recommend that you overemphasize it, that you keep bringing it back and bringing it back. Give your child as many strategies, as many tools as possible to help them in their understanding. Now, if you do not use RightStart Math, this is basically how the place value cards work with the syllables. 3 has one syllable. It has 1 digit, right? 310 has 2 syllables, 2 digits. 300, 3 syllables, 3 digits. Now, the thousands don't cooperate very well. So I used to tell my kids all the time that the only time they were allowed to stick their tongues out at me were when we were talking place value. So I would totally overemphasize that and make them giggle a little bit. And I would say 3,000. Notice how I've made myself look silly. It's okay to laugh in math class and make your kids laugh at you. It's okay. Now, 4 sounds, 4 digits. Why is that important? If I were to ask a child who does not understand place value to write the number 108, what are they going to write? They're going to write the 1 and they're going to write the 8 because that's the only 2 numbers they hear in the number 108, right? They only hear the 1 and the 8. However, if they consider the syllables and use the place value cards, they hear and see that the number should include 3 digits. Then, when we line up the place value cards, the student can see how to build the number 108. Now, when using place value cards, children with dyslexia and dyscalculia can see the direction that each number is written in, and they can see the order that the numbers are to be written in. When my son struggled with flipping his numbers, which he did frequently early on, I had him solve the problems using the abacus and then the place value cards, even when the lesson did not require them. Then, when he used these 2 tools, he did not struggle with the writing of his numbers in the correct order or in the correct direction. So if you have a child with dyslexia or dyscalculia, use the place value cards daily. They are a tool that is going to greatly help your child learn how to write the numbers in the correct direction and in the correct order. It's also going to relieve some of their mental energy that they're spending as they're thinking about the process. It is easy for them to copy information than it is to think about, okay, what order do I put this in, or what direction, how do I write that number? And that frees them up to learn new math content. Now, math card games. Children with dyslexia and dyscalculia struggle with writing. So worksheets are painful for them to complete. So many parents ask RightStart Math for more worksheets to help their child practice. Don't use worksheets to help them practice. Worksheets are terrible for the child with dyslexia and dyscalculia. RightStart Math has a better way to practice the math facts. When played regularly, and I mean by regularly, I mean daily, your child is going to learn and they are going to retain their math facts. Math card games provide a low stress environment for kids with dyslexia and dyscalculia to practice their math facts in such a way that it's not performance-based. When a child is given a worksheet, they're graded, right? They're graded on their performance. And we grade that worksheet and we hand it back to them to either view or correct. And that child gets frustrated or they get discouraged. Now, some parents are like, okay, so I understand my child doesn't do well with worksheets, so I'm going to give them flashcards to practice that. Now, here's the problem with flashcards. If a child does not know the answer to what's on the question, on the flashcard, nothing in that flashcard is going to help solve it. It becomes a staring match between the parent and the child, making the child feel like, listen to this, they're letting their parent down. And that is not a joke. I've done it. Both of these practice models reminds the child of what they do not know and, quote unquote, confirms their belief that they are not as smart as their peers and that they are in disappointment to their parents. Don't do that to your kids. However, when they play math card games, the child is not pressured to perform. They are given the materials that they need to solve the problems that they do not know, the abacus, the fraction chart, whatever it is, and then they feel much more relaxed. Their minds are ready to receive new information. The pressure is totally off. Games are vital for your child to learn and retain the math facts. One of the arguments I hear from parents all the time is that, well, we just don't have time to get the lesson in and the games in, so we just pick the lesson. My response is, I would rather them play the math card games than do the lessons. They are that important. Don't skip them. Now, the child with dyslexia or dyscalculia need daily, I know you're like squirming, I don't wanna. They need daily practice in order to absorb the math facts and push the information into long-term memory. That's our goal. Now, remember earlier when I was talking about working memory deficiency, you teach something one day and the next day it's gone. Well, that's how it is with math facts. They need effective and consistent practice. Now, the math card games do not need to be played during math time. Yep, you can play it any other time. In fact, many times they are more effective when you play them later on in the day. I used to play math card games when we were getting ready for lunch, getting ready for dinner. We would play math card games while waiting in a doctor's office or at a restaurant waiting for our food to come. We would play in the evening before TV time. We would also play them over the weekend. But games also do not need to be played at their school desk. We played games on the kitchen table, in doctor's offices, on the front porch, in the trampoline, on the floor, on the deck, in the car. So many places that we've played games. Plan ahead. Make games a priority of the day, and you can play them anywhere. Free yourself up. It does not have to be during math class. One important aspect, though, of playing games is to provide the manipulative your child needs to look the information up. Games are not quizzes. They provide opportunities to learn. Remember, your child is visual, so learn the things they do not know through playing the card or using the manipulative. They need a way to take that abstract out of math, and the manipulatives do that for them. They also build a visual for them to access later. Now, when letting your child use manipulatives as they play the game, you are giving your child a tool to learn the things they do not know without the added pressure of performing. The Cotter Abacus place value instruction, and math card games are just 3 ways in which RightStart Math is going to help your child with dyslexia or dyscalculia learn math. Now, there are other reasons why RightStart Math is an excellent math program for a child with learning struggles. If you are not currently using RightStart Math, I hope you look into it for your child. At every convention, I talk to parents whose children with dyslexia or dyscalculia are successfully learning math because of RightStart Math. Many of them have come to RightStart Math after using other programs, and they have found that it works. I want to thank you guys for listening. In just a minute, I'm going to open it up for questions. But for those of you who want to go ahead and log off, remember, you can go to our website and view more information about our program. You can also email RightStart at info@rightstartmath.com, or you can call at 888-272-3291. I think I have a few minutes left to answer some questions. I don't know, Maren, if you've been keeping track, are there any questions out there?
I haven't seen any questions come in yet, but they might be directed directly to you.
Okay, let's take a look here if there's anything. I don't see anything in the chat. So if nobody has, oh, here's something comes up. Oops, let me slide this over.
What do you do with a child who always counts?
So good question, because they have been in a habit of counting, right? So what's going to happen, I don't know if you're currently using, Christina, I don't know if you're currently using RightStart Math, but one thing you need to do is it's become a habit for the child. So you need to redirect that habit. And what I did with my daughter, because she did a similar thing, I would start with small little numbers. And I would say, okay, here's 3. And she'd go 1, 2, 3, show me 3, 1, 2, 3. Great. Can you show me 3 in one swipe? 1, 2, 3. I mean, in one swipe like this, boom, and then then I'd ask her again, show me 3, 1, 2. Nah, I want you to go like 3, 1 big 3 all together, 3. And notice how I'm engaging with her. I'm showing her and I am incorporating that. This is like no matter what, she has RightStart Math and hasn't gotten past 4. Are you talking about 4, the number 4? Christina, are you talking about only the number 4 or past lesson 4? Subitizing 4. Yes. So some kids, especially dyscalculia, it's really, really hard. Focus in on those quantities. Actually, this is probably a pretty significant. I'd like to talk to you offline here and just have a moment we can give some direction to you more specifically. But globally, when you're working with quantities up to 10, that's really hard for some kids. Like I said, McKenna, she struggled with 7 through 10. We literally spent months and months working on just quantities. And that's really what you need to do. Don't push in on those lessons. Really hone in on focusing. And we actually did a number of the week where we had just 5. And what I did was, if we were working on 5, that was our number of the week, I'd put it on toaster strudels. When I mean put it on there, sometimes I put the symbol on, and I want her to show me 5 tally stick, the symbol of 5 on the toaster strudel. And she would show me 5 tally sticks, 5 fingers. She'd tell me the name of it. And we would just do that throughout the day. I would say, okay, McKenna, show me 5. Or I would do this and I'd say, McKenna, how many is this? Right. And we would just, pretzel sticks and carrot sticks. And we would just have constant review of that number all day. The next day, I would start off. If she was solid on that or showing good solid work, then I'm going to do a number that she already knew, like 1. I said, how many is this? 1. How many is this? And sometimes all of a sudden, because we're mixing in new numbers, it was kind of like, what is that? And then I work on it some more and I go back to that 1. And so I'm going 1 number and then adding a new number, a number she knows and a number she doesn't know, the number she's struggling with. And I'm going to go back and forth on that day. Then the next day, if she's solid on that, the next day I'm going to add a second number that she already knows. I'm going to do 1, 2, and 5. See how I'm progressing this slowly, giving her confidence, because I know she knows 1 and 2, giving her confidence in what she does know and throwing in this new number that she's still working on. By the end of the week or week and a half or whatever it was, she was a little better. So, and it might take longer. Each child is different. Okay. So I don't know, Christina, if that gives you some ideas, but I would love, go ahead and email info@rightstartmath.com if you want some other strategies. I would love to talk with you as well. So feel free to email and we can kind of come up with a plan to work through with your daughter. Do we have any other questions? Okay, it looks like we may not have any more questions. I want to thank you everybody for taking the time out of your day to attend this workshop. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your summer. Take care.